Now, if you think about a continuum, and I like to put everything in mental health on a continuum because we don't really fit in boxes as well as we fit on continuums. So we'll go that route. Across this continuum, you see different kinds of folks when it comes to gambling. There are a portion of us that are non-gamblers. There were 2 in the room that were non-gamblers. And that might be anywhere from 10 to 14% of the adults in the USA that are non-gamblers. But they're there, and we'll acknowledge that. Most of us are some kind of social gambler. Gambling for fun, gambling for entertainment. You know, instead of going to dinner and a show, we might just go to the casino and have dinner. It's just once a week, it's on vacation time. You might buy a ticket every single day, but you're still sticking to limits. You're not going beyond. No problems attached to you when you're gambling. So that's about 80% of all the adults in the USA. It's actually closer to 90%, 86 to 90% of the adults in the USA. Now, serious social gamblers are noted for being regular gamblers. Some of you might know somebody who was like my mother-in-law who so loved her bingo. She had a t-shirt that said, "I love bingo." She had her little bag of daubers, and she would knock you down to get to bingo when it's time to go to bingo. And don't be putting other things between me and my bingo. And there are folks that will plant themselves in front of the tube when it's football season and do not speak to me, not even during halftime, because we don't watch somebody's marching band, we see the replays. Don't even talk to me during all of August, September, it ends that first Sunday in February. Pro Bowl doesn't count, nobody bets on that. But if the football widows would complain about you're not paying attention, you're not listening, and you know the kids are running amok, and why don't you help me with such and such, not during the game, not during the game. And you got the Saturday college games, the Sunday pro games, the Monday night game. Every now and then they throw in a Thursday, and everybody's just into football during that season. Now, you're still going to work, you're still paying the bills, you're still taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your family, and though there might be a little bit of tension or teasing going on around bingo or football or the racetrack or your numbers or whatever it is that you do, you're still being a responsible person, and you are not spending more than you can afford to lose. That's the key with social gamblers. They do set limits and they stick to their limits, and they're doing okay. And the next one up that you see is problem gamblers and pathological gamblers. Now we're going to come back and do them in detail, but before I do that, I want to mention the professional gamblers. First, you should know that there really is such a thing as a professional gambler, but you can count with me. They are very, 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 very rare. Clinically, you will never have a professional gambler coming in and saying, "I could use some help," because they don't need your help. They don't have any problems with their gambling. Gambling for them is their job. It's a business. They think hard about it. They work hard at it. And when they're finished, they're done. And then they go back and take it easy. And they're in the black. They have a home. They have 2 homes. They have a vacation home. They have a boat. They have 2 cars. They're doing just fine. They're doing just fine. What is far more common, and this was proven with the research done by the last national study, is that a whole bunch of the clients I see claim they are professional gamblers. That's what you'll see. A real professional gambler isn't going to tell you, because they would lose an advantage. It's to their advantage that others not know that they're professional gamblers. And they really are quite rare. Most people cannot track the number of variables that they track and have the immediate recall based on the variables that they're tracking. It's like card counters. I can't keep track of who's played what in a 52-card deck when we're playing cards with friends. They can keep track of 6 decks of cards, which is what they deal from in a shoe in a casino. It's really, it's a special skill set. Remember Rain Man and Dustin Hoffman, who was the autistic guy who could do all of that, and Tom Cruise had to make the most of that. Then off to the casino they went, and they got thrown out. Why? Because they were hardly subtle about it. They let everybody know. And though it's not against the law, and you haven't broken any laws, it's against policy. And if a casino recognizes you as a card counter, professional gambler, they'll throw you out. They consider you someone that has an unfair advantage when you're playing with other people. It's an unfair advantage as far as the casino is concerned, yeah. But those folks are out there. They're with skill games. Action players like to play skill games. The more you know about the game, the better your odds of winning if you play with the odds. So these are handicappers. These are folks who are looking at the right horse and the way we just finished our whole race season with the Derby and the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes and, you know, which horse is which and all that stuff. There are people that try to make a science out of it. Now, luck has a lot to do with it. And some of, you know, is it this jockey and is it this track and is it this horse and what did the trainer tell you? And well, what if he gets blocked? And you can't truly predict. It still is gambling, obviously. But when you know that a couple of years ago the Detroit Lions won no games during the entire season. If any of you are from Detroit, I'm really very sorry. The Steelers hardly ever lose. Bastards. Baltimore, I gotta be Ravens. You don't have any choice. I don't like the Steelers. We don't like the Steelers. No, it's all right. It's all right. I'm not saying nothing about the Chiefs. I'm gonna say nothing about the Chiefs. I'm saying nothing. But people are into sports and they're watching this quarterback, that quarterback, front line. You know, what about the offense? What about the defense? And out they come with here's the line for the game. Now, if you're a fan, who needs the line? What's the line for? It's only for the people that gamble on the game. And it's a very big, big deal. So professional gamblers can be on that side. Professional poker players. Once a year in Vegas, they have the $1 million game. And yeah, 60,000 people try to get to the last table. And, you know, finally you get two and one person wins. And though there's a lot of skill involved in playing poker, there's still the luck of the draw. So that is equally not predictive. But skill gamblers could be professional gamblers. I don't care how many troll dolls, blessed mothers, candles you put around these bingo cards. It's going to be dumb luck if you win or you lose. You know, as much as I can enjoy cereal as anybody, Lucky Charms is just the sweet little things in the cereal. The rabbit's foot did the rabbit no good whatsoever, and neither does the four-leaf clover or the penny. And these are just superstitious things that are left over from about 5,000 years ago. And we still carry them. We still carry our own favorite little superstitions, whatever they may be. I was fussing with my little granddaughter the other day because she was playing with a little compact umbrella that opens and closes. Don't open an umbrella in the house. And she looked at me and said, why? And I couldn't think why she shouldn't do this. Well, because my mother said you never open an umbrella in the house because it's bad luck. Have you heard that? You've heard that, right? A few of you have heard that?
No, only you.
Only me. So I really said, well, you can play with the umbrella, but would you please do it on the porch? Because this is creating some kind of anxiety with me. I'm not feeling good about this. I mean, these are deep-seated things that humans are all about. It's just human nature in that sense. But professional gamblers can be professionals with skill sorts of games. The lottery is luck. Bingo is luck. You know, the slot machines are all luck. And there's no way to try and predict what number is going to hit. I don't care if you bought Grandma's Dream Book on numbers or whatever. Random means unpredictable. And I assure you, my clients that are escape gamblers drawn to the luck games don't get that. They're quite sure that they have a system, they have the pattern, they had the magic dream, they know what's going to happen, and off they go.
That's probably the biggest obstacle that I see with that faulty thinking. The few gamblers that I've dealt with. Do you have any tips, strategies, resources?
Well, it depends on the route that you want to go. A popular way of addressing the irrational beliefs is with the cognitive behavioral intervention. CBT is a big thing. So we're listening for the irrational belief, noting it when you hear it.
They're easy to hear, they're easy to note. It's just how to change that thinking.
Well, we challenge it. We challenge it. You understand that the reality is every odd number is not followed by an even number, or whatever the irrational belief is. You know this really isn't true. Oh yeah, I know it's not really true, but you're acting as if it was. Well, It's sort of, so you're thinking one thing but believing another. So we're working on trying to change the thoughts.
Just challenging the.
Challenging and replacing it with the truth. If you flip the coin 10 times, flip it 100 times, and it's heads every single time for 100 flips, the gambler's now ready to bet the farm that the next one's going to be tails because it's due now. Well, what are the odds when you flip the coin? It's 50-50 every time because it's independent of every previous flip. Now, I can give you the math lesson in 30 seconds, but to integrate it into changing a belief system, that's therapy. You know, that's really talking to this client about why are you holding on to something that the whole world knows isn't true. Tell me about how important it is to hold on to this. Because what I think they're really holding on to, and it depends on the client, they're holding on to hope. They're holding on to a dream. They're holding on to, and I want them to have hope and I want them to have a dream. I want them to make the distinction between hope and dream and fantasy. Because what you're really holding on to, my friend, with the crazy irrational beliefs, is pure fantasy. Well, somebody could win, and it could be me. Well, yeah, it could. You know, and rhetorical, don't raise your hands, but how many of you wanted a ticket when there was more than $500 million that could be in that big old Powerball game? Or Mega Millions, whichever one it was. $620 million. Well, I gotta have one ticket. Even if I don't tell anybody I got it, I gotta have one ticket because it could. And sure, you could buy one ticket and have a chance of winning. I could guarantee you're not gonna win if you didn't buy a ticket, right? But if you have a ticket, you have a chance. Now, the fact that the odds were astronomically against you didn't stop people from wanting to play. Humans like to play. Puppies play, kitties play, dolphins play. We're mammals. We like to play. It really is entertaining. But we watch pathology develop when you're watching someone who perhaps has little or wants more. They're two different things, all right? Get into the fantasy pursuit beyond the means that they can afford. You know, buying a ticket, who cares? Buy 10 tickets, who cares? Spending all of your paychecks on the tickets, I care. All right, so we're back to talking about limits. There's a lot to be said for what people turn gambling into. What's it meant to be? Fun and entertainment. Not your way out of poverty. Not an alternative to a job. Not the way you save your home from foreclosure. Not the way you save the farm or invest in your new business. It doesn't work well as a way to cope with grief, anger, loneliness, boredom, fear. It doesn't work well as a coping mechanism. Actually, the problem is it works too well. It works too well for that very little bit of time while you're gambling. And as soon as you finish, then you're back with the same problems that you had. So it's just such a temporary escape that it doesn't last long. It doesn't live long enough. So while we're challenging the irrational beliefs, we want to replace them with rational. A more productive way to get where you want to go. Isn't this a better way to solve the problem and keep it permanently solved? Isn't this a better way to process whatever the dysphoria is all about? Isn't this a more lasting or more rewarding return? So you need enough time with the client to make those kinds of things happen. You're not going to do that in 2 visits. You know, or it's hardly likely. Some folks maybe, but you're going to need some time with these clients to kind of challenge the irrational beliefs. Get connected to what role gambling's really playing for them in their lives. You don't learn your way out of poverty. Don't tell me go to school and learn my way out of poverty. That's ridiculous. You don't work your way out of poverty. I barely have a job. I'm underemployed or I'm unemployed. I make a minimum wage. I'm not going to get out of it this way. How am I going to get out of it? I might win my way out of poverty. Now, don't talk to that client about give up gambling. It's foolish. Give up gambling, it's a waste, because that's not going to make sense. That's you trying to take my dream away. And I don't want to do that. You're trying to take hope away. And I don't want you to do that either. And though it took me a while to figure this out, it's like, oh, I see your point. I don't want to do that either. I don't want to do that. Well, you know, if I dropped out of high school, don't have a high school degree, work as a waitress in a restaurant, over here at the little diner, and you don't get big tips at a diner, all right? But I'm trying to make ends meet, and I might be a single parent, which is just not all that uncommon. I rent a little apartment. Maybe I share all right, in my little rented apartment, I take the bus to work. I want a Lexus. Well, that's nice. I'm never going to get a Lexus unless I win. I'm not going to have a house up on the hill by the river with a great view and a maid and all that stuff unless I win. I want to take a vacation where you got to fly somewhere and there's a beach and you get a drink with a little umbrella in it and you can, you know, I want that. And I'm never going to get that unless I win. And I hear that. I hear that as an honest wish the person has. You understand the limits, and some of them are painful, and none of them are hope-building, and my hope and my dreams are attached to, and look on anything in TV, and you're just given more wonderful things that you would just love to have, all right? And you can't have them when you have limited means, unless I take some of what I can't afford to lose and gamble it, some of whom, and some of these folks, of course, get hooked on it, and off they go. We start having conversations about, I understand you want a Lexus. I get that. It's not the greatest thing out there, you know. Well, I want a Lexus. Well, would you start with a used Elantra? Let me get you off the bus. Because if you stop the gambling, you put this much aside by this date, and I'll do the math with you, we can put down a down payment on a cheap used Elantra. My youngest daughter got a used Elantra. It was okay. You know, a couple of grand. We were in business. It got her through college. Okay. Well, I don't know. I really wanted, well, I'll tell you what. You keep that Elantra, you pay it off, trade it in, you can get a used Civic. Work your way to an Accord, right? You might be really happy with your Accord and you don't even need a Lexus anymore. But if you want one, we can keep working towards that. I might not be able to get you to the Caribbean first class on a jet, but I could get you to Dollywood, you know? There might be Six Flags or something closer by. We can get you and the kids there for a weekend. You know, their coupons, their packages. You can build in reward and return and fun, and you don't have to win the big prize to get that. It's some careful planning, a little bit of budgeting, but we can do that. We can do that. We can talk about that. So when you start to set reasonable goals that can be achieved, you're keeping hope, and you're changing from the fantasy to an achievable dream, an achievable goal, whatever it happens to be. And that has a more lasting effect, depending on the needs of the client. Well, that's part of what we would do. Okay? The bungler, I'll just quickly add a little piece about the bungler. Be aware of the fact that slowly as public awareness goes up, you really do have more folks listening and learning about gambling. And there might be somebody that's a principal or a foreman or a union rep or somebody in business or government that, you know, sat through one of these things and, oh, I know about problem gambling. And, I think you've got a problem here. You should go and talk to someone. All right. And that very system sent a young couple. They were actually, I can finally say this, they were actually from a place not far from here. Usually I have to say they were way here or way there, but they were really very close to where you guys are. Anyway, young couple from farm country, saved up their money, had a nice little wedding, went off to the Caribbean for their honeymoon. I think they went to Aruba. Not sure I have the island right, but there certainly was an island that had casinos. Neither one of these folks from a small town had ever been to a casino. But in they march, and the bridegroom is waltzing the bride around saying, this is crap table, here's the roulette table, and here's where they play poker, and here's this, and here's that. Let me show you how it works. And he takes $1,000 of their spending money for the week, puts it down on number 19, because you know that's our lucky number now. That's the day that we got married. And they spin the wheel, and he now has a homicidal bride next to him. You did what? What the heck were you taking? Are you crazy? The honeymoon gets cut real short. Back home they come. She drags him to the local gambling treatment program person, because there was one. Here, fix them. Not staying married to somebody with a gambling problem. This is ridiculous. You know how long we had to work for that money and how hard it is. Okay. Now, it's perfectly clear in about 5 minutes. You know, well, and he tells the story just as I did. He said, you know, I was kind of trying to show off to her, like I know something and I'm sophisticated and I'm not just a little, you know, bumpkin from the farm here and I'm playing James Bond. And you can this, and easy come, easy go, and it's no big deal. And when they took all that money, they didn't give me a chance to get it back. It's like, well, no, it doesn't work like that. It was literal ignorance. He just didn't know. He didn't understand. Well, even when I go to the state fair and I throw those softballs and knock down the milk bottles, you know, even if I've done that for umpteen times and I get nothing, the guy eventually gives me something. He gives me a free chance, or you get a little thing instead of the big, and you get something. They didn't give me nothing. It's like, well, it doesn't work that way. He just didn't know. He really didn't understand. And he got caught up in the situation. He was trying to impress his new bride. And, you know, again, within 5 minutes' time, what's perfectly clear is that he will never do this again. No. He's learned a lesson here. He learned it the hard way, but he learned a lesson. Junior's behind the garage with a six-pack. He's had one beer. He's popped the top on the second. He wants to drink the whole thing. He wants to get drunk, but he gets caught. Busted. He's had one beer. Do you send him to AA? Well, I hope not. He hasn't even gotten drunk yet. Now, he might get grounded. He might get a lecture. He might have to write something. Who knows what you're going to do, but, you know, you do something. But, you know, parents are going to do what they know to do. Now, when you talk about somebody that has a gambling problem, perhaps as public awareness goes up a little bit, and as one person at a time, one company at a time, one EAP at a time, one pastor at a time, whoever it is that's learning something about problem gambling. Gambling problem right here, you need to see these guys. And they're going to perhaps have problems because of gambling, but not be problem gamblers. The kid has a problem because of drinking, but he's not a problem drinker. He hasn't had a chance to become a problem drinker, and hopefully he won't. But it's the same pattern. You get caught gambling on the loading dock, and you know that's against the rules. Over you go. Gambling in school, into the principal's office, you know, and you certainly could be seeing people that get in trouble because of their gambling. They've broken a rule, they've gotten caught, they made a promise, they broke the promise, whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're problem gamblers. So you want to keep the same eyes open for the gamblers and the role gambling's playing as you would for any other kind of addict, be it drugs, alcohol, or whatever the case may be. Okay? Antisocial personality disorders. In the original DSM-3 criteria for the gambling disorder, that was a rule out. You could not be an ASPD and a pathological gambler. That's gone now. So what's left is a caution. Don't work harder than your clients do. That's not a good sign. If you really have the real thing, the ASPD, and of course our prisons, you know, about a third, you're going to have a lot of folks there that have this concern, not including the prison folks. They can't throw people out before it's time for them to go. But others of us, if they break the first rule, the second rule, the third rule, whatever your agency's rules and regs are all about, then go ahead, get them on out. Free up that treatment slot for someone who can use it, because we have no effective treatments for access to disorders. Most definitely not for ASPD. So it's just a caution nowadays. I'll tell you more in terms of prevalence for that disorder, but gamblers today could be, an addict can have an antisocial personality disorder and be addicted, or have an alcohol problem. And the same is true for gamblers. You can certainly have both today. So it's just a caution to know. It's an extra problem if you've got that one on access too. The next few slides tell you what I just told you. So you can pass by those. And we'll end up right here. Noting, as I said, in 1980, the American Psychiatric Association puts the gambling disorder in the DSM for the very first time. It's listed as a disorder of impulse control that is not elsewhere classified. And if that sounds like a bit of a catch-all, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It lives with a few other cousins in the book under impulse control, not elsewhere classified. But let me tell you about the big umbrella of impulse control. We'll make it one big giant umbrella. We'll call it impulse control. The psychologists should be happy that we do that, because that was their idea to do that. Okay. Down the middle of the big umbrella, labeled impulse control, come all the substance use disorders. And you know everyone has a name and a number, right? You got marijuana, cocaine, amphetamines, barbiturates, all the way down. All right. At the opposite end of the big umbrella of impulse control are the pedophiles. Now, what's that about? What's pedophilia? Yeah, sexual predators, prey on children. You know, they hurt the little kitties. Okay, those guys. At the opposite end of the big umbrella of impulse control, you have pathological gambling, living with his cousins. Kleptomania, that's about...
Stealing.
Yeah, stealing. Pyromania.
Fire.
Trichotillomania. Yeah, pulling out hair, eyebrows, eyelashes. And an intermittent explosive temper disorder. I haul off and punch you in the nose. I don't even know you, but you're next to me when my volcano erupts and I just lash out. So you've got the kleptopyrotrichomaniacs there. You've got the temper disorder and pathological gambling.
Wow.
It's where they put it. And we've been there since 1980. Now the good news in terms of the DSM-5, which in 2010 was due out in 12, and 12 it's due out in 13, 14, it's going to come whenever it comes. But when the DSM-5 comes out, we're moving. We need to pack our boxes, and we need the tape, and we need all of the bubble wrap, and we're moving the gambling disorder from impulse control, not elsewhere classified, right next to our cousins, the substance use disorders. And that's what it will be called, substance use disorders. Probably they'll call it a gambling use disorder. They want the names to match, but gambling use disorder seems cumbersome to me. But they'll call it whatever they call it. But that's a big move for us, to move out of impulse control from over there, right next to substance use disorders. ASAM is the American Society of Addiction Medicine. ASAM issued a new definition of addiction this past fall. It's kind of a rework of the old one, a little bit more detailed, certainly more specific. And for the first time ever, ASAM has included in their definition of addiction the gambling disorder. It's right there. It's the only one of the process addictions, sex, eating, gambling, food, exercise type things, that's made it. But it's probably just the first. I don't think it'll be the only one, but it's the first. And that's because we've done all the research we have needed to do to see that what goes on in the brain of the gambler is exactly the same as what goes on in the brain of the addict. Gambling goes to the same part of the brain that cocaine goes to, and off you go from there. All right, and there's advanced training topics that talk to you about gambling in the brain and talk about the neurotransmitters and the biogenetics and the genetic defects that some gamblers have in terms of how their brains work and communicate or don't communicate certain things in certain ways. All right, but as of the moment, we're still using DSM-4 language, and DSM-4 language, which came out in '94 and will be with us for at least another couple of years, I think. The short, sweet definition is the essential feature of pathological gambling is the persistent, recurrent, maladaptive gambling behavior that will disrupt personal, family, or vocational pursuits. And you only get into the book if you're doing something that disrupts your personal, family, or vocational pursuits. That defines pathology for us. But gambling is in here. I'm not sure what adaptive gambling is, but I'm real clear about maladaptive gambling. It's getting in the way. And the criteria are as follows. Number one is preoccupation. And it says in the DSM, I'm going to have one word to hit each of the 10 criteria, but the actual DSM is the little line under the one word. Are you preoccupied with gambling? Reliving past gambling experiences, handicapping, planning the next venture, thinking of ways to get money with which to gamble. That's preoccupation. Don't ask your clients, are you preoccupied? No, I'm not preoccupied. You really want to know, have clear in your mind your own picture of what clinical preoccupation is all about. And then find out if that's what the client has. Are these thoughts about gambling getting in the way of what you should be thinking about? You know, whatever that might mean. This actually gets confusing for some counselors in an actual interview, because when you hear how the client feels about their gambling, well, obviously they're preoccupied. Well, check again. Check again. If I'm thinking all about my vacation because it starts tomorrow, does that mean I'm preoccupied? It may mean I'm preoccupied if I drove past my exit, if I didn't finish my job, if I missed something obvious I should have been seen. But otherwise, maybe I'm just looking forward to my vacation. So you need to ask all the questions you need to ask to be satisfied. Yes or no, is this client preoccupied? Number two is tolerance. Now that's Joanna's shorthand because, you know, I've got a license as an addiction counselor. I know all about this addiction stuff. I get that. All right. But the DSM says, do you need to gamble with increasing amounts of money in order to achieve the desired excitement? The $5 bet just doesn't do it for me anymore. I went to 10, I went to 20, I went to 50, I went to 100. We're talking about casinos. Once you go up to the $100 chips, you don't go back. You know, when you've bumped up, you tend not to go back. Not our gamblers. Social gamblers might, but not pathological gamblers. Withdrawal. Are you restless or irritable when you are attempting to cut down or stop your gambling? And it's exactly what it sounds like. Some of the best hard science we have speaks to this very point. upset stomach, constipation, diarrhea. The most common complaint, headache. Like a band around the head, tightened up, my head. Just like a caffeine addict that stops caffeine abruptly. My head hurts. You take 2 aspirin? Yeah, my head still hurts. Give me a cup of coffee. It's pain. Now, it only lasts 3 or 4 days, and then it could be gone. But while you're going through it, it's hardly pleasant. Now, we've got everything that has been recorded from dermatitis and itchy skin, vomiting, sweaty palms, the gastrointestinal problems, you name it. But we're only looking for restless or irritable. The gambler that might look like somebody who quit smoking yesterday. Shut up, get out of my way, leave me alone, bark, snap, growl. You know, that kind of restlessness and irritability. That could be a sign. Now, you won't see this if the gambler has stopped gambling a week or 2 before they get to you. You won't see it among binge gamblers that are gambling off and on. But if the gambler has been gambling hot and heavy and they stop abruptly, you are the most likely to see this, including some of the more severe withdrawal symptoms. Number 4 is escape. Are you gambling just as a way of escaping from problems or relieving dysphoric mood? And again, you know, you don't want to ask your client, do you have dysphoric mood? It's like, well, what is that? Ask them about, is it feelings of helplessness, guilt, anxiety, depression, boredom, grief? I mean, you know, that list can go on. Are you gambling to get away from whatever that's all about? I can blanketly call it just chaos. If you're gambling to get away from the chaos, then it's an escape thing for you. Chasing. This one is a trademark. This is an absolute trademark for a problem or a pathological gambler. After you lose money gambling, you're returning another day in order to try and get even. I'm not much of a gambler. I can't say I don't gamble, but I'm not much of a gambler. I hate to lose, and I'm really cheap. And that doesn't make for a good gambler. It just doesn't. All right. But I do lots of work in casinos and with the industry folks, and early on they say, oh, come on, we'll show you how this works. Put $10 down. Okay, lose. I've also never won anything in my entire life. Big loser right here. Put another $10 down, same thing, gone. Another 10, gone. You know, that was 30 bucks. This is not fun for me. I'm not enjoying this. I'm going to go where I can have much more fun. I'm going to the buffet. Food's always there for me. I can count on it. It doesn't disappoint me. I can't eat $30 worth of buffet food from a casino. You know, the food is too cheap. That's all right. Or shopping. I'm going to go to a little gift shop, and I'll look at everything in there. Now, I'm still cheap, so I'm going to not buy a thing. I typically don't, because have you seen what they have in these gift shops? No, I don't. But if there's a bargain to be found, I'll find it, and then I'll feel good about putting $30 down, because I got at least $50 worth of stuff, right? That's okay with me. Last Christmas, my husband did remind me that he needed to have me stop saving him money. But it was 50% off. Yeah, I know. But it was, you know, it was on sale. That's my favorite thing. It was on sale. That's more fun for me. That I enjoy. I feel like I'm getting something for my money, not watching it disappear. All of us that do not have a problem with gambling have brakes. You know, your brakes are going to slam on and say, that's enough now. This is not fun anymore. This is painful. This is starting to hurt a little bit. I'm out of here. I'm gone. Okay. Our clients, the folks that we see, and the field, the debate, the research is still going on. We're not sure if they don't have brakes or if the brakes they have don't work. End result is that you're seeing somebody out of control. That first 10 is down and gone. Second 10 is down and gone. Third 10, $30. You've got my money. And I'm not going anywhere until I get that money back. And they're back in their pocket for another 30 to win back the first 30. This is chasing. 30, 60, 120, 240, 480. And though the number doesn't always double, it always goes up. Trying to get back what I've lost. I'm not listening to Kenny Rogers. Don't know when to hold, don't know when to fold. Not paying attention. I just want that back. And you do the double down thing. And it's all now the psychology of, I won't be a loser. 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 You don't mean someone that misplaces their keys, do you? You mean failure, inept, incompetent. You can't do anything right. and it's a nasty label. And if you've heard it for a long, long time, and a part of you absolutely believes it, that could be so painful to walk away from what you have lost, you won't go. I'm not going until I get it back. I'm going a winner. I've got a whole paycheck in there. I can't go now. My husband will kill me. I've got to get that money back. And that's what chasing's all about. It's not having breaks, or the breaks you have don't work. That one's a real trademark for somebody with a gambling problem. Please.
So I just had a quick illustration that ties in something that I thought about earlier when we think about some people that play slots believe they have a strategy or a system, even though we know there's luck. It's just about luck. But I had someone that was known within her family for being able to win and kind of know what they were doing. But they came to me because they ended up going to the casino, and they had been sitting at this one particular machine. I guess it was a lucky machine. And they felt like they had been there long enough that, based upon the history, that if they had already put enough money in that it was just about ready to get it. So they kept sinking more and more and more money and chasing. So they ended up calling a family member and to bring them money, and the family member pulled out $2,000 to somehow, I don't know how it happened, but they talked the family member into bringing $2,000 to them because they knew they would not only hit, but hit big. Well, the $2,000 came, and then it went. And that kind of bursted the bubble temporarily. And that's how they ended up in treatment. But it kind of ties in an example of even people that play slots believe on some level
absolutely.
that there's a system or
I hear it all the
strategy,
time.
and then also just chasing a dream. But I still don't even believe today that one example that defies, that something obviously that defies the law. That if I sit here long enough, if I sink enough money in here, it's going to hit. Even though that was
Well, ultimately, that's true. You just need about 56,000 years of, individual play on an individual. Yeah. And I hear it all the time.
That example.
Yeah.
Today, I don't know that consequence still has much impact when it comes to some of the other things that we'll probably get into.
Sure. Well, it's an excellent example, because they're folks that will be doing whatever their gambling is, and they're doing it and losing, and now they need the more money, and somebody's got to give me more money because they don't have a gambling problem. I don't have a gambling problem. This is just a cash flow problem. I ran out of money before I won. So you just have to give me more money so I can play until I win. But keep in mind when you hear these stories that, well, you're gambling even though you're losing because you want to win. Yeah, that's the whole chasing piece. But when you won, what did they do? Continue it. Well, you don't quit when you're winning. How stupid would that be? What idiot's going to stop when they're winning? Of course you carry on when you're winning. Well, now you're losing again, and you have to win back what you've lost. So if you don't stop when you're losing and you don't stop when you're winning, you're seeing somebody who just doesn't stop, which is exactly what we're talking about. But in their mind, it's like, now wait a minute. When I was winning, you were there. You were right there, and you enjoyed the fancy stuff I got you, whatever pleasant time we have, and you were all happy about that. Now that I'm losing, you don't get to jump ship just because I'm losing. That's not fair. If you stick with me and if you help me, you know I'll win again because I always do, don't I? Now, you can hear there is an element of logic in there. And family members can be really drawn right into it in terms of the enabling thing, so much so that it shows up in terms of what criteria is all about. But that's part of the crazy world of the gambler. And it's got its own name. It's so clear a pattern that we call it gambler's fallacy. Gambler's fallacy is when you take whatever the real odds and probability are and just change it to, I'm going to win. I can tell. The cards are hot right now. Well, go ahead. Take the temperature of the cards. It never changes. And, no, these are computer chips inside the slot machine set at the factory that are not going to change because you've been sitting here. It's a random number generator in there that's on all the time, if somebody's playing the machine or not. The random number generator is going. And when that generator hits the combination set at the factory that says now you trigger this, there'll be a win. Go ahead.
I hear stories that, you know, the persons in the camera are watching me, they don't like me, I must have made them mad, and.
They turn it on and off based
Yes,
on the,
yes.
yeah, as if. Yeah, as if. No, I actually had, not a colleague, but an associate back home tell me very recently, because their new casino just opened, and they went to visit. Well, I've always told to play the ones on the end, because they put the winners on the end to attract it. You know, you gotta hear that that's a little nuts too. The owner of the casino doesn't care where the machines are. As long as they're out there, somebody's gonna play it. And he's already ordered whatever he wants, you know, so many set at 90% or 95 or 96 or a couple at 98. And they're going to be out there, and based on how many people come in, how long they stay, I know how much money I'm going to make. The state will predict for you how much money will be made per machine based on the number of folks that will come in and play. That's all. They don't care. They don't need to worry about who's got what where.
What is your experience with like couples or people who cohabitate having the pathological gambling?
Both?
Down?
Yeah, thankfully, I've not seen a lot of that. And I say thankfully because it's a wicked problem when you see it. And it would be very similar in terms of the therapeutic challenges as when you have two alcoholics, two addicts. Because they rarely go through recovery together. You know, one starts and the other does not. And then maybe the other one comes in, and then maybe, and then one that isn't using triggers the one that is using triggers the one that isn't. It's really tough. And a lot of the couples, depending on who it is, it's really serious about recovery, might choose to end the relationship as opposed to stay with somebody who is not in recovery. It's too hard for them to do. So it's the same kind of a challenge with the gamblers. We would try to get both folks pursuing recovery together, even if not exactly the same pace, teaching each how to help the other. And it's not uncommon for me to say, you need to go to your own GA meeting. Having done that, now you need to go to your Gam-Anon meeting. So they're doing both and know what they need to do for self and know what they need to do for partner or for family member. But they're very challenging. I'm glad that it's a minority of the folks that we have seen, because they really are very challenging.
Going by every ad, Joanna, that I've ever seen, whether it's TV or roadside signage or something like that, specifically to slots, every ad I've ever seen is somebody's winning.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't that be indicative that the marketing is supporting the gambler's fallacy?
Oh sure. But I've never seen anybody buying a new car that wasn't a size 6. You know, have you? Have you seen a fat broad like me buying a new car in a commercial? I don't think so. So they put their best foot forward. And they always will. That's what marketing is. That's what marketing means. You know, if you buy a certain mouthwash, toothpaste, car, you'll be young, pretty, you know, you'll get the advantage over other coworkers, you'll be in the corner office. It's all the promise of, you know, using the right mayonnaise or mouthwash, and it's all a little goofy, but that's American advertising. But yeah, it does promote, if you do this, you could win, which is true. It doesn't say a thing about how unlikely it is that you'll be the one to be the big winner.
Going along with what you said, do you think since the gambling is now going to be classified with other addictions such as alcohol, or like tobacco, you know, with the marketing and the things that you see on TV, do you think that the warning labels, or not so much the warning label as a health, but the risks and the dangers is becoming, that'll be more something that we can expect in the future?
I would like to think that we'll see more in the way of public health information, public health warnings, because this is a public health issue. It is a public health issue. I'll prove it to you in the next set of slides that are coming up. But I'm not expecting to see a lot in a hurry. We mandated in the state of Pennsylvania, because we had the chance to do that when you're putting together legislation and whatnot, that when you put up the billboard, every billboard for every casino, whenever they want to advertise their place, had to post the helpline number on the billboard. Now, you literally have to see the billboard pull over and park to read the number because it's so small. You can't see it when you're doing whatever. 80 miles an hour is not unusual in certain highways in your state. You know, I know that. I've been left in the dust on many an occasion. But you can't see it when you're going by that fast. So if you're going to say put it on the billboard, then if you choose to do that, then put it on there big enough for somebody to see. Posting it in the casinos on the walls at the cage, that's one thing. In Jersey, they have to put a sticker on every single machine that has the helpline number. Not every state chooses to do that. So there are people exploring and looking for better ways to get the message out there as such, but there's no uniformity. And part of the resistance is don't make us do expensive changes when you don't even know if it's going to work, which is a legitimate request. Well, let's find something that's going to work. We have to do that. Well, then you have to do the research. Well, how much research does any state put, how much funding does any state put into research like that? Very few states do anything like that at all. So we continue from one generation to the next. Well, we don't know what's going to work, but you should do something. Well, we'll do something, but tell me what's going to work. And you got a catch-22 thing going on.
I was going to say, we have like the statistics that you're showing us here. I mean, it kind of is going to be a moot point thing that there is not a national or federal program, night for gamblers, but if it's costing dollars, you know what I mean? That might be something that you could use, you know what I mean? That it is something that's mandatory in the future, that on these commercials that you see everybody from the front.
Yeah. Well, I think the day that the Surgeon General stands up and says something about this will be quite the day. Because you notice the Surgeon General's warning that's on the cigarettes. And warnings on a bottle of beer. That took generations to get that far. Now they're supposedly going to get even more graphic about what they put on the cigarette packets. Okay, is it working? To some degree it is. Does it get rid of all smokers? No. You know, whenever you showed that alcoholic the picture of the sclerotic liver, did they quit their drinking? Most not. Here's the picture of the black lung. Now you're going to put the cigarettes down, right? Yeah, that's really disgusting. That's awful. Anybody got a match? You know, and what I think the lay public sometimes struggles with, thinking that a warning thing like that is really the right thing to do, and I believe it. It is the right thing to do. It's not treatment for an addiction. It's a warning. You know, and it can help those that are at the far end, of the spectrum not turn into folks at the other end of the spectrum, which is why I'll always support it, but it's not treatment. So we have to have one of those real coordinated efforts that covers all of these different things, and we don't do that in the gambling world.
Just a brief comment about the billboards. We have relatives in Biloxi and Gulfport, Mississippi, and there's scads of
Tons of them,
casinos and scads of
absolutely.
billboards. One of the catchphrases I discovered, they use loose slots. On the webpage for Boot Hill Casino in Dodge City, hottest slot. Translate.
Hottest slots would mean the machine is hot and it will pay out a lot. Loosest slots means the same thing. It's at a high payout rate. And the first time I saw, I've actually seen it in Nevada as well as in Mississippi, but Mississippi has tons of casinos. It's an open state. They don't limit the licenses. If you can afford to come in and build something, go ahead. You think you can make it fly, go ahead. And they let the whole capitalistic system make or break a given endeavor. So you've got lots of casinos in Gulfport, Tunica, Biloxi, all of that. So we have 98% payout on our slots. One big sign. 98% payout. This is loosest slots or hottest slots. So I'm in there doing training and I want to see. And sure enough, it's the only time I've ever seen it, they had a little section in the casino with the velvet ropes, around here. Here are our hottest slots. Actually, they were probably the loosest ones, but they were 98% payout. And we're not only advertising outside, we're showing you where they are. All 6 of them are right here. It wasn't the thousands on the floor. It was whatever it was, maybe 10 or 12, but it was a very small number. But were they getting a lot of business? Sure. And it only means for the casino that every dollar that goes in, at the end of a year, they've paid 98% of that money back to a collection of winners. They only keep 2%. I got a suggested 2% of $10 million would keep me real happy for a really long time. And that's per machine. And nor does it mean you're going to be the one that gets the 98%. $5 in, $2 out, $2 in, $1 out, another $1 in, 5 in, 10 in, 1 out, and that's that in and out, in and out, in and out. So the intermittent schedule of reinforcement tends to keep people playing till they hit the limit if they can stop, or going past the limit if they can't. But they need a way to compete with each other. Come to my place instead of the one next door. Because why? Because we have the loosest slots. We have the 98% payout, or ours are the hottest, yeah. And it means the same thing, and it's just an enticement. We have the best burgers here. We have the best coffee here. Sure you do. Okay. If you believe it, then maybe you'll try it. And you're allowed to do it. You're legally allowed to do that. It's called fluff. Yeah, fluff. And you're allowed, when you market your turkeys, to say these are the best turkeys in town, the best turkeys in the country. You don't have to prove it. It's just considered fluff and a part of advertising. You're legally allowed to do that. Yes?
A couple years ago during the 60-hour certification, I think you talked a little bit about the actual research and strategy that goes into the slots and the marketing. And I remember when I learned about that, I was just fascinated. It was I can't remember what it was, but it was something about, you know, I have these in my mind, guys in suits coming in and then watching the demographics and then really setting it up so that it's very, very easy to be pulled into it.
That's their job. They want to find what people respond to. We had to testify to the National Gambling Commission when it was up and running. And there were a host of people that this congressional commission was saying come in, including the guys in the black suits, you know, the designers that make these machines. There's a psychology behind this. We insist that you tell us what is the psychology behind the design of these machines. And they had quite the interaction. What I came away with is what you described, not what the commissioners thought was going on. That we've researched players well enough to know you like to see gold numbers and purple letters and this kind of music and these kind of... That doesn't exist because humans are too different. We're drawn to different kinds of, and you can look in any collection of casinos. You can do it online, you don't have to go in person, all right? But you can look at, this one is kind of blues and greens and subdued lighting. This one is red and gold and bright lights. This one's got this one's got that. And they're not the same because different things appeal to different people. So they mix it up, trying to get enough of, and no casino uses all the same kind of machines, do they? We've got Lucky 7, we've got Wheel of Fortune. I'm right up to here with that one. Get stuck at the elevator bank at the MGM and listen to that for 20 minutes waiting for a stupid elevator at dinner time, and you'll want to blow them all up. But they've got the King Kong machine, and they've got there was a Regis and Kelly machine that they made a big thing. I mean, you name it. There's a Star Wars machine, a Star Trek, whatever's popular. There's a Sex and the City machine when the TV show is around. Whatever's popular, they'll put out there to attract somebody who is already drawn to something popular.
We did that with pinball machines.
Yeah, same thing with pinball machines. Exactly, exactly. So that kind of thinking, what they'll do is put their best guess forward. You know, here's, I can't even think of, I'll just pick on Star Wars because they have a whole bunch of those at Star Trek at the Hilton Hotel, a big exhibit and all that stuff. So they had a whole section just with these kinds of machines. So they know that there are folks out there that are real rabid fans and they'll want to come and play these machines. Then they watch who's coming into play and how long do they stay. If they've put something out there, nobody's playing it, it's going to disappear. If people keep playing it, then it stays. And that's how the final decision is made about what goes onto the floor. You know, who plays this and how long do they play it? And that they watch like hawks so that they can tell, you know, what's hot now because it changes. It changes per demographic. Betty Boop is still getting attention. She really is. But you also have, and I'm trying to think of a brand new thing, kid thing that's out there, and I can't because I'm not... there you go, I'll take that. Something like a SpongeBob, you know, is going to be there for the younger set and a little bit in between. But they'll truly watch patterns of play to make their decisions. They don't know enough about, none of us can figure out enough in the way of psychology to figure out this is what we should have, this appeals to everybody because everybody's very different. We all like different kinds of things. If we didn't, there'd be one restaurant always serving lasagna, you know, but no, people like different kinds of things.
Just on that note, I listened to this radio spot this morning on crowd. So, and they talk about what they're doing to actually bring people in the casino, like for example, giving them a chance to go online and practice. And
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah.
they said is if you.
Oh, yeah,
part
all
of the
casinos do that
part of the
now.
marketing is if you go online and practice, it'll be easy for you to win when you get in there.
It'll be easier for you to play,
Yeah.
not to win.
And they are actually, I guess, offering coupons then to get them in. So
Oh, sure.
Their insight, what is there that attracts the young
Anything
folks and-
free is a good thing.
Well, I meant once they're inside, in terms of the machine, anything that they're doing in terms of.
Yeah, it's really rows and rows of machines. What's interesting is we're only allowed to have slot machines. Excuse me, I should say machines. You know, that we call them all slot machines, but the machines that they actually have mimic table games. You can play roulette at this machine, and it's a real wheel with the real little marble that goes around the real wheel, but you're at a terminal watching that and putting your bets on your terminal screen. And you can play blackjack at a terminal screen, and poker and sickball at a terminal screen. So you're not really at a table game, but it's as close as they can get you to a table game, still meeting the tenets of the law. Excuse me. But to get the young people in means you can get more money. Some of the older adults will bring what they have, but they're not necessarily going to be as frequent a player. Well, actually, I'll just show you the table and you'll see the breakdown.
What kind of gambling, when you talk about adolescents increasingly involved in gambling, what kind of gambling is?
Games they can control. They play their own card games, their own sports betting kinds of things. Excuse me. They're not all trying to get into casinos, though some do, especially in Atlantic City. They try really hard. But they like to play games they can control. So Texas Hold'em, again, I'm up to here with Texas Hold'em with kids, and sports betting are the big things for kids these days. They run their own tournaments, and they're playing in the gym while the basketball game's going on. And it's not just who's going to win or lose. It's if this player at this time is going to make that free shot. He's going to make the rebound. How many times he's going to pass. They can bet on 100 things in one game. And it's just getting juiced up. You know, it's having the... gambling creates an altered state without ingesting a substance. And that's what they're going for. They want to be in an altered state. And it really is. It's a mind-altering activity. And it works really well as a mind-altering activity.
Do you think it's because they're bored, lack excitement, and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the typical teen that might be doing an average to above average in school, might be on a team or play a sport, have a hobby or a part-time job, is still bored. Why? Because they're a teen. You know, and they just have to be into everything and exploring and challenging, and it's age-appropriate behavior. There's nothing strange about that. It's how they choose to kind of fill those little voids and look for the next challenge and the next challenge and the next challenge. That's when they can get into trouble.
Isn't there also research that connects the electronic or video games that young children on young brains play, and the same sort of researchers or marketers that make those games, there's a connection between gambling and the effect on the brain and what we're programming young children to be.
Well, there's a lot of research, well, it's not a lot, for us a little bit is a lot, but there is research going on to look at the video gaming kinds of games the kids would get into and the gambling games they would get into, because the concept was one of, you're just pre-programming the kids to turn to these games for those reactions as they get older. You're teaching them how to be gamblers as adults. We don't yet have proof that that's true. The few couple of peeks that folks have taken, and they're very few and far between, are not finding the link. Kids that are playing their PlayStation or Xbox or Wii or whatever do not all turn into problem gamblers. We don't see that. You see a certain number of kids turn into problem gamblers. Not clear to us yet if they all had a gaming experience beforehand, if they were predisposed. Did that kind of lend itself to encouraging them down that road? We don't really know yet. There's a brand new book by Jeff Derevensky from McGill University, who's one of the world's leaders on adolescent gambling. And I haven't even read it yet. I just got it right before I came here. And I didn't put it in my bag to bring on and read on the plane, so I don't know what's in there. But I know that's part of what he's looking at, internet gambling with kids. Because the practice sites are a very popular thing these days. Kids that are underage and can't, but you check off the box that says you're over 18 and who checks, are on these free sites. And you're playing cards for free. You're betting on sports for free, whatever it is you're doing. And no matter what you want to gamble on, you can do it on the internet. And it's all free. And of course, look how good I am at poker. Look how many times I've won. Look how much I've done. Look who I beat. This is great. And then you get the little thing that says, we're going to give you $500 free if you ever want to come to the pay site. Look how well you're doing here. Imagine what you could make if you're over there. We'll give you $500. And of course, some folks go over because it's not my money, it's theirs. But all of a sudden, you're not winning the same way over there that you were over here. It's a computer. It's programmed to make money for the company, not you. They're not winning and they're not making money off of you on a free site. Here, encourage this little person. Let them think they're really hot. When you come over to the pay site, now we're going to get the pay back. You know, you're going to put more in, we give you a little bit, you'll put more in, and we'll give you a little bit. You put more in, we give you nothing. You know, we've got it all. And that's the legitimate sites, because there are plenty of them out there that are not, you know, legal, regulated, or legitimate sites whatsoever. But we don't really have a clear picture of those games lead to that problem. Haven't figured that out yet.
Joanne, just briefly, I don't think it's worth.
Do you want this one?
Oh, I was just gonna say that, the 2012, thank you, Communities That Care survey that was just out for Kansas for 2012, the lottery was the biggest game, yeah, number one. And then sports betting was number 2.
Yeah, that's true on the continent. Now, Jean's making an important point, because I think too much of a problem gambling when I think about gambling. Tons of kids gamble. The majority of kids indeed are gambling out there. Most never have a problem with it. They really don't. They do not have a problem with it. Among all kids who gamble, the number one choice in terms of ways to gamble is the lottery. How old do you have to be to buy a lottery ticket in Kansas? 18. That's what it is for most states. 30% of vendors will sell to minors, in case you didn't know that. I watched a 10-year-old little boy buy a lottery ticket. I watched it with my own eyes. He was right in front of me. And the guy's like, well, you're looking for this, aren't you? He said, oh, my granddad's right there. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, we've already been here with tobacco, have we not? You know, the guy in the corner store, my mom would send me up to get her cigarettes from him. And he sold me her cigarettes every day when I was a little kid. He knew they weren't for me, they were for her. Well, now things have changed, right? They're all behind the counter. The cigarette machines are gone. You have to show proof of ID. Now, we're not there yet when it comes to lottery, but we're supposed to be. I will get to Steve about this one. And he inherited the problem. He didn't create it. He's the new director. He's stuck with it. We have terminals, you know, these machines where you can buy the tickets. And it says, must be 18 years or older to play. It's like, Steve, you really think this is going to keep the kids from? His predecessor is the one that I really got to fuss with about it. And he said, well, all right, maybe they could get some tickets out of there, but if they won, we wouldn't cash it. It's like, his name was Buddy. Buddy, do you think if the kid had a winning ticket, he could find somebody to maybe cash? Have you heard about teenage alcoholism? And he's most definitely knew a lot about that, yeah. Well, how old do you have to be to drink? Well, that's 21. And hello? But no, we're not quite there in that department. But it is the number one choice among kids who gamble will be the lottery. Yeah, they like that. It's not the first choice among male problem gambling teens. It is a little higher for the females, but not the males. They like cards and sports. Yes, sir.
My Facebook page has a slot machine on it. And it says I love it, but I've never played it before. So how many kids do you think are on Facebook?
Oh, that's a great example. That's a great example.
And I don't know how they said I loved it when I've never played it. I'm not getting into slots on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're out, they got a big old thing of, oh, Glenn loves.
Well, you know what? I heard a thing, this was probably One Corner, Pennsylvania. I've done a lot of work there recently, where I happened to hear on the radio, going from one place to the next, about one of the many, many new sort of webpage kind of companies, people that know about setting up your webpage or doing whatever, that do the social media thing. And they'll do a blog for you, or they'll set up a Twitter or a Facebook. And one of the other functions you can buy is creating likes for your webpage on Facebook, because they'll just log on and do it for you. Well, doesn't that defeat the purpose of? No, because if you come to look at whatever you're looking at, you know, this website that sells such and such, and you see 10,000 likes, you think you should like it. If you went there and you only saw 5, then you would think you shouldn't like it. And it's like, here we go again with a new thing in terms of marketing. So it could be one of those companies that's racking up the likes for something somebody else is selling because they bought that. They pay people to do that for them. It's always something. Always something. All right, that's chasing. Lying. Have you lied to family members, therapists, or others to conceal the extent of involvement with gambling? This will hit clinical criteria, because if you're lying, it's to do what? Prevent a negative consequence. So you've already been in trouble for this, and now you're lying to cover it up because you don't want to get into more trouble. So lying is criteria. Number 7 is loss of control. Have you made repeated unsuccessful efforts to control, cut back, or stop your gambling? Quit. I can quit anytime I want. I've quit 100 times. If you quit 100 times, you never stayed stopped one time. So that's a control problem. Illegal acts. Excuse me. Have you committed illegal acts, forgery, fraud, theft, or embezzlement in order to finance your gambling? Social gamblers don't commit crimes to get money with which to gamble. Problem and pathological gamblers will go through all their own money, max out their credit cards, empty out the checking account, the savings account, borrow from friends, borrow from family, sell what they own. After I have begged and borrowed, the next stop is steal. And like any other addict, they will steal to feed the habit, so to speak. Have you risked a significant relationship, jeopardized or lost a significant relationship, a job, an education, or a career opportunity because of gambling? If your boss says one more time, you're going to be fired and we'll prosecute, and you do it again anyway. When your family says one more time, we're going to leave, I'm taking the kids and I'm out of here, you do it again anyway. If a judge is looking you right in the eye and says one more time, we're going to lock you up and throw away the key, this is somebody that's got a serious problem. In spite of the negative consequences, they just carry on because they think when I win, I can fix it all. I'll put it back, you'll drop the charges, I'll buy you everything you ever wanted, you'll forgive me. As soon as I win, I'll fix it all. And then you have bailout. Number 10 is like enabling. Bailout is the gambling term for the enabling phenomenon. Have you relied on others to provide money to relieve a desperate financial situation caused by your gambling? Mom, if you can't help us, we're going to lose the house. You know, Dad, they're going to come and repossess the car. They're going to close the business. I'm going to lose my insurance. I don't have any food. I don't have any money. I don't have any medicine. Whatever the story may be. And somebody who loves and cares about you, or at least feels responsible for you, comes up with some money to relieve the desperate financial situation. A huge piece that is incredibly important in gambling counseling is helping the family members and the loved ones not do that. Don't bail out the gambler. Don't bail out the gambler. And then our clinical task is to not have innocent victims have to pay for what the gambler has done, nor do we want them to be punished by way of what the gambler has done. So we have to connect some psychological strings if there is a financial crisis to be managed, so the gambler does not emotionally experience a win. That's what we want to avoid. We might transfer the debt. I can work with that, but I don't want to relieve the debt because that feels like a win. Clean slate and they do it again.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
We want to try and experience an emotional win. If I owe the mortgage, I'm 2 months behind and I'm starting to get those nasty letters. Okay, you know, Mom, you got to help me out so I don't lose the house. and she pays the mortgage for me. Thanks, Mom. Now I'm relieved of that financial debt, and I could blow the next month's mortgage gambling. It just means I gamble again. Every time there's a bailout, the gambler is free to continue with their gambling. It does not stop the gambling. No matter how many times they cross their heart, hope to spit, I will never do it again, just sign on the second mortgage note here and we'll clean this up and I'll never do it again. They always do it again. And we're very much anti-bailouts.
I think it's important to, anyway, I think here, in my sense, that it's not always about the money. The reward is, there's many rewards. It's not about, sometimes it's just about having enough money to get to the place where I can get the satisfaction I want.
Absolutely.
It's not about winning the money, or winning more money. It's about meeting my personal, that pleasure and reward.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. There are gamblers that have won all the money everybody at the poker table has. All right, I am you, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out. I've got all your money. Now I'm giving it back to you so you won't go home. So you'll stay and play. Because my goal is to stay in action. That's my altered state. Money's just a means to get there. That's not the goal. If you want $1 million, $1.1 million, would you still need to gamble? Yep. All right, you're greedy. I'll give you $10 million. Do you still need to gamble? Yep. All right, there's some demanding little people out here. $36 million, that's my last offer. You want $1 million? I have an attorney back home that stole $1.1 million in order to gamble. He had $1 million. What do you need to? $10.3 million stolen from a bank. Still gambling. Gambling all of it away. I think he's my personal all-time high. I could claim the 300 million guy, but he wasn't really mine. $36 million. Stockbroker that bankrupted his own company and took down his father's bank. Iowa. $36 million. You had $36 million. Go around the world 15 times, buy an island somewhere. What do you got to do this for? It was just the means with which you stay in action. I want the ride. I want the Lamborghini, and I want it going 150 miles an hour. The money's just the gas for the car. I can't take the ride if I don't have gas in the car. But that's what they're going for, the altered state. Somebody had a hand up.
That's exactly what it is. Just being in that state of mind and not wanting to come out of it.
Exactly.
Well, that's a really
It's very powerful. We call it being in action. The gambler who's in action is in that altered state. It's the equivalent of the drug high, if you will. Okay? All right. So, just to wrap this up, the B category says the gambling behavior is not better accounted for by way of a manic episode. That's a requirement the DSM-4 has that didn't exist in the 3 and the 3R. I don't know if it'll still be there in the 5. I hope not, but it might still be there. You just have to check and see. If this person's gambling like a fiend at the top of the manic phase, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a pathological gambler. It might be the mania. You shop like a fiend, you do housework like a fiend, you paint houses, whatever you're doing in that manic phase is the result of the mania. We have to figure that out in terms of the gamblers, because you could be bipolar and a pathological gambler. Do they gamble on the way up and in manic and on the way down? And in the bottom, that deep dark depression, and on the way up and on the way down? You can back into it once on medication. The moods level out, gambling continues, pathological gambler. Moods level out, no gambling, it was just the result of the manic episode. But we are required to check that out. So if you got 0 out of the 10, you've got no problem. If you have 1 or 2, you're going to be called an at-risk gambler. You'll see that in the prevalence studies. It was just invented for the last national study. These are preclinical, the group that prevention specialists should pay attention to. All right. 3 or 4, we're going to call that the problem gambler. And if you have 5 or more, you are a pathological gambler. Okay? Any questions about criteria? They're pretty straightforward, I think, right?